Welcome. It's obviously a very special day today because it's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, but also because it's the first day of London Fashion Week, which is actually more exciting. We're kicking off in a really great way actually because we're going to be talking about the London College of Fashion show, and obviously having these amazing fashion colleges and fashion schools in London is part of what makes it so great, as I'm sure we'll talk about more. And to help me kick off London, I've got an amazing set of panellists with me from sort of all across the industry. But I'll let you guys introduce yourselves, starting with you, David, looking very dapper.
Thank you, thank you. Hi, I'm David Hellqvist. I'm the fashion feature editor at Port magazine.
My name's Soki. I'm a freelance creative director and fashion stylist.
And I'm Richard Mortimer. I'm the editor of Pony Step magazine.
I started just then obviously saying that, you know, what makes London so great is having these amazing colleges and places like LCF and Central St Martin's, who aptly also have their show today. Is that right? Do you think that is what makes us so great? This kind of, we've got people, young people from all across the world coming here to study. Is that what makes London Fashion Week so good? Someone answer. David.
It helps, surely. I mean, that can't be a bad thing. It's obviously not just about that. I mean, these students, they breathe fresh air into not just London Fashion Week, but to London's fashion scene. And then obviously we have bigger names. I think it's a shame that we're, you know, just defined by the kids, as it were.
Yeah.
You know, we have plenty of proper names as well, but you know, we keep saying this every time, but you know, we have some of the best schools in the world, so we should be proud of that.
It's interesting you say, you know, we are sort of defined by the kids, because I think that's quite true with London. You know, it's often seen as kind of the young, riotous city, and it, as you say, it kind of somewhat can overshadow brands that are slightly more established. But do you think that's a good thing that we're known as that kind of crazy club kid city?
It's good to have an identity. You know, you look at all these cities and you think, oh, they do that and they do that and we do this. But at the same time, you know, when the international press is reporting on Fashion Week, they're not just going to focus on students.
Yeah.
And the buyers are not all here for students. They're here because we have plenty of mid-range and also big ones as well.
Big ones as well. What's your take on it, Richard?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think I just think it's really amazing that we're doing this for LCF. I think there's such a sort of elitism about everything, you know, the best thing being St Martin's or, you know, the Royal College. And I think often other great fashion colleges and fashion courses are really overlooked.
Completely.
And, you know, great things come out of all of them. And I think we're so lucky in London to have so many great places. And it's not just all about St Martin's.
No, definitely. Such a good point, especially with, you know, you've got Liam Hodges coming up RCA, JW Anderson coming out of...
I think maybe that's a good thing for LCF, because, you know, everyone's expecting like all these things from St Martin's, and LCF and the other ones as well can kind of just come in and, you know, they don't have the same expectations and pressure on them, and that just kind of makes it maybe a bit easier for them just to kind of to impress. Yeah,
you were nodding in a second. Do you agree with there's that kind of hype that surrounds young people that can always be, especially St Martin's?
I do. I do feel like, I mean, LCF, just within the last couple of years, like obviously they've got Showtime, which is like the platform where they can all showcase their work, and I don't feel like Royal College of Art or Westminster, I think they don't push their designers as much, and I do think that it does make it a little bit easier for them. But obviously with LCF and St Martin's, like you look at the calibre of designers they're going to work for now, and you know they've got who's the one? Is it Joseph Turvey that's just did River Island, and designers like Ashley Williams, Claire Barrow. They're all kind of like, there's a select few that will come from Westminster and stuff that will go straight into that. But I think if you can kind of have, I think I'm terrible at what I'm trying to say. I'm terrible, but with St Martin's, it all comes with the package. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
God, I'll just stop.
But I think that no, I get what you're saying. But I think that's the thing with LCF. I think is what you mentioned, Richard, that kind of underdog thing that they've had for a while. You know, at St Martin's, Central St Martin's. I think that is changing now. There's so much diversity in what colleges people are coming from, but the one thing that kind of to flip the side of that, I wanted to ask you guys whether, in a way, it's dangerous to see students kind of showing on schedule so much, because it increases that pressure that, you know, to be a successful designer you have to show, you have to be at Fashion Week showing under your own name, you can't kind of go and work in-house somewhere where it's not under your own name, it kind of does continue this problem I think we have in London sometimes, where people feel forced to set up something straight away.
I think sometimes a lot of these young designers, young graduates, are quite naive about going into a label, and I think they like the idea of being their own brand, but don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you get a lot of these people, you know, coming out of these great courses and setting up their own label, and then 4 seasons down the line,
They've gone.
Yeah.
And that's tough, but it's still a good thing that they, you know, try. And some people, a lot of these students will want to do that. And you know, it's the sexiest thing to do rather than go work for someone else, right? So I don't see it's a massive problem. Yeah, some of them will fold, and it's going to be painful. But
I mean, I did a talk weirdly at LCF the other day, and afterwards I did say to one of the course directors, how much support do you give these kids in terms of running a business and finance and, you know, the other side of fashion? And he was like, yeah, you know, we talked to them. And it's one thing that I feel is often really overlooked in fashion. There's not that support for young people, for young designers. And without that, it's like, how are these people going to build their brand and build their business? And I just think, you know, as much as the BFC and people like that are really great in supporting young London talent, I think that there needs to be somebody that can help these people, you know, establish a proper business plan and make things work.
No, definitely. Because you're not taught about how to do your taxes or how to set up a company at all, are you? No, definitely. Do you think?
Yeah, sorry.
No, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to agree. I mean, there should be some sort of, and I'm sure to a certain degree, some of the schools do offer that, but definitely alongside their creative education, some sort of add-on where you can kind of learn about the business side as well. And I think generally speaking, you know, last week I went to a trade show, Jacket Required in London, and it's great trade show, but it's very sort of focused on one type of brand.
Yes.
And you know, having been to Capsule and in Paris and New York, I've actually seen like Kit Neal, I've seen Bottomus and Siegel, I've seen Joseph Turfey and all of these young designers at these trade shows, but the one in London, there was no one like that there. And you know, it's not exactly what you were saying, but it's an add-on as well. Like, you know, they need to, not just themselves, but we need to create spaces and opportunities for small brands to sell their stuff. And you know, it's great that we have London Fashion Week, but you know, what happens after that?
That's such a good point, I think, because we always talk about sort of the London identity, and we're very precious about London, but actually it's very interesting that most of the sales that these young designers get, not perhaps these ones because they're too early for that, I think the show's about to start, but I'll finish, even slightly more established people like, you know, whether it's your Roxanne and Chic, American Transi, their biggest sales are coming from, you know, the Middle East, or they're coming from Russia, you know, and it's very international. It's beginning, so I'll be quiet. Okay, this is really good, it says it on the screen, which is helpful. So there's 10 different designers showing as part of this. It's a mixture of men's and women's. And it's amazing because they've really stepped up this season. Like, there was a bunch of different fashion sort of journalists and stylists who helped Frances Corner, who runs LCF, to sort of select the students, and I helped out. And Anders Solston was on the judging panel, and he's from, obviously he used to be at Love, he's just gone freelance. So they've really kind of got really great people helping them out. This is Barbara Kolosinski, who's a womenswear designer, as you can see.
Do we know who did the hair?
I don't.
Was it Lindale Mansfield?
The hair's amazing.
The hair is, yeah, Lindale Mansfield.
Yeah.
Right.
It's really good.
Do you, when you're doing your styling, do you look to shows like this? Do you really look at the student shows to pull up?
I majority of the shoots I do, I look at graduate designers.
Really?
I've seen a few of these designers already. I've actually shot with one of Danielle's.
Oh, that's exciting. Yeah, she's coming up next, Danielle. No, it's Daniel.
Daniel,
next.
yeah.
Yeah, Daniel. This was one that we thought was really, really amazing when we saw it up close, because the craft on the pieces is really, really amazing.
Did you decide to the running order as well? Is that why you started?
We did actually in the meeting. We decided we just thought the pieces had such an impact and it felt really fresh. So we did decide the running order as well. Yeah.
Where are they showing?
They're showing at the, I think it's the Waldorf Hotel. That's correct.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, is it? Yeah. Thanks. You're like, get it right, Lou.
Cool.
Yeah, because they showed it at the Royal Opera House last time. It was like really impressive. What do we think of this? What do we think of Barbara's work?
I like it.
Yeah.
For me, it feels like a kind of grown-up Louise Gray.
It's got that ladylike thing, which I think is quite fun. You know, it's kind of like riotous ladylike. So this is Daniel, yeah. There's a real mix of menswear, so you'll be happy.
Good.
I want to ask you that actually. Do you think with the young designers, more and more you must be seeing this when you sort of talk to young people? I think for a while, but like if you wanted to have your own label, you want to be a big name, you went and did womenswear, whereas now it feels like that's completely changing. Do you think that's really great that people are kind of thinking, actually, if I want to be a star in my own right, it's not just that I'm going to have to kind of join the menswear?
For sure, yeah. I mean, of course that's a good thing. I mean, just menswear generally is just given more space, isn't it? And that you can tell that with the students as well. Like you'll have, you know, both girls and boys wanting to do menswear.
Yeah,
which is
definitely.
Great.
Is this what you've shot before, Soki?
Yeah, it was the blue pieces because I contacted him like last week.
Is it like neoprene?
It's just like this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really good. The accessories were so incredible for this one as well. You can kind of see them. It was just what always actually really impressed me with LCF is the kind of craft and the skill behind it. Everything is so perfectly finished.
Yeah. And that's quite impressive as well. It's like they're thinking about accessories because majority of grad collections is just let's get the outfits, but these
it's just
guys,
like let's get the idea out.
Yeah, and he's even looking beyond just actual clothing. He's looking at the full look.
And what I find already impressive about this show is quite often when you see graduate shows, it's a case of what can we do to be the most controversial?
Yeah.
What is going to grab us the most headlines, rather than focusing on technique and finishing. And it's really nice to see everything coming down.
It is a fine balance, though, isn't it? Because there's 10 of them in this instance. You do sort of need to stand out. You need to make it impact and so on. But I agree. I mean, it's not priced for the craziest outfit.
No.
We all know what we're talking about here. We've all seen it. We've all seen those kind of crazy dresses made of rolled up newspaper. And all that
No, it doesn't feel like that. When you look at all their collections, it feels like they're trying to just have their own idea. They're not trying to have the idea. They're just trying to develop a...
I think we should look for the same things we look for when we see any other collection, which is a coherent message that runs throughout the show. And, they should be able to do that. And if not, they shouldn't be one of the 10 MA students who's chosen to show here. And clearly, there is a cohesive message here. So
this is Yujia Jin.
This is great.
He's a womenswear designer, and this was, I thought, really beautiful. It's interesting we're talking about sort of not shouting, because this felt like such a quiet collection. We saw it, really sort of considered and.
But really nice tailoring. You know, it's.
And this was actually one of my favourite pieces. It's such a simple piece. It's just like a jumper, and it kind of crosses over, and it's so Helmut Lange and kind of perfect.
It's quite brave to show essentially a grey collection.
Yeah, completely. Are you impressed by what you've seen so far, Soki?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still going back to the point when you mentioned about who kind of where they go from here. That I'd be intrigued to see, like, from this show, like how it works, because I know I contacted Danielle. Like, they've got the Showtime website, and there's no kind of contact details of who to deal with through that.
Yeah.
And I just typed his name into Facebook. That's how I usually do.
That's how you find it.
I think LCF do have someone that look after their designers, but it's just an overall press that don't really do anything.
Yeah.
Really? That's...
Yeah, because when you contact them, there's no details. You contact them, and obviously it takes them 5 days to reply. But by then,
That's hard, actually. That's such a good point. When it's students at that level, and they're having to think about that already, they're having to think about returns and lending stuff to press.
I think that's why Ella Drawer, she's got an association with Westminster just now.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing, because obviously she's picking them straight from university, and she's taking them straight into a well-known PR firm. I think it's amazing.
No, that is really amazing. It goes back to what we were saying at the start, is like that when you're trying to just get your collection out there and finish it in time for a show, the last thing you want to think about is like getting your email out there, setting up a website.
Because let's be honest, I mean, that's a big part of it as well, is that you have friends and PRs and people around you that kind of help push you and the brand, right?
Yeah.
So because there's plenty of good designers who hasn't got that kind of backup, and then unfortunately they won't get the same sort of attention as it were, even though they're good.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Also partly because, again, there's just a hell of a lot of brands out there.
Yeah, completely. It feels a bit saturated in London. That's the big complaint everyone makes. It's kind of a flip side. Everyone's like, oh, it's so amazing, you want to see everything. It's the city where like there's brilliant things every day, but then also by the end of it, everyone's like, there's just too much. Like, and especially with this 45-minute slots and stuff.
Yeah. and that goes, of course, back to what you were saying. You know, not all of them should just start up their own brand kind of thing.
No, definitely not.
You know, I just think in London the good ones always shine.
Yeah.
And it's like you know who they are.
But then you have that, and then you mentioned, it's interesting when we were looking at Barbara Kosinski's work at the start, and you said it's like a grown-up Louise Gray, which I think was so apt. And then someone like Louise Gray, who is a good one, and she's absolutely amazing, and then she had to stop showing. And that's the kind of sad thing with London, is when you see that kind of real talent that can't quite find a kind of a way to sustain itself.
I mean, I you know, Louise will be back.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's interesting because I want to talk to you a little bit, Richard, about kind of Pony Step, because obviously it's a magazine that kind of came out of going out and clubbing, and you've seen that side of London where it was kind of all these club kids, like that Gareth Pugh stage, and these kids obviously are growing up in a very different time. You know, it's not about, they're probably getting their inspiration more from online than from the clubs. Do you see that big change have happened in London? And
not really.
No, do you think it's still as crazy as ever?
People still like going out, and there is still a great sort of club culture, and yeah, I think that as much as a lot of people say that street culture and club culture is dying out, I don't think it is.
You
it's
don't?
like, you know, just go down Sink the Pink on, you know, a Saturday night, and you'll see them all out in force.
We did a shoot about that actually. It's really good.
You know, it's still there. You just have to know where to look to find it.
That's interesting actually when you say you just, because I guess it's always been that you kind of had to know where to look, but now the internet makes everything really accessible, so people don't bother to look, and then they say that it's dying, perhaps.
You can probably not go to that club night, but still feel you've been there.
You know it, yeah.
Although I've never heard of it, which is says
David.
more about me than anything else.
So out of the loop.
Yes.
This collection that we're seeing here, it's Wen Tan. It's quite, the piece came out just before we were talking. There's kind of a quiet comedy to it. So he did like a print of the skeleton in a hand on a pocket, and then you put your hand inside it, so it's like an X-ray. And it's kind of quite witty. I thought it was quite playful.
I like the hat.
Yeah, the hats are good.
This is not at all my cup of tea, but you know what he does good is that he's creating a very strong look. I mean, you know, you'll be able to tell that's him, and you'll know. You know, his sort of his design.
His signature already,
yeah.
This is one, oh God, I'm so bad at pronouncing names. This is Wang Si Sun.
I'm not too sure about the shorts. It kind of look like a nappy.
It's very quilted, this. Like the construction in it is absolutely amazing when you see the pieces.
What was the name again?
I'm going to say it again because I can. It's Wang Si Sun. I think.
Okay.
Wang Si Sun. Beautiful name. But yeah, these checked pieces are really kind of quilted and amazing, and there's a really good bomber, which I hope made it into the show, which is really great. I do think Anders has done a really great job with the styling though. It's really great that they've got like a big name stylist.
I just think the whole thing just looks really slick. I think, you know, the casting's good, the hair and makeup is good, the styling's great. I think, you know,
how many looks do they have the same amount of exits?
They're all doing about 10, but I don't think they all have exactly the same. I think some of them, if there's a huge amount of craft that's gone into a particular look, some of them are doing like 7 or 8.
Okay.
And one thing that we did do with the selection process, which is why I think Francis is so great at getting people in to do this, is give those students real feedback. And some of it is, you know, like you need to redo half your collection, or this needs to go, you need to focus on this bit. And I think to get that kind of feedback as a student, it's really helpful.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, it's a huge amount
but
of
pressure.
pressure.
But they famously get that kind of feedback at St. Martin's as well.
Yeah,
don't
exactly,
they?
at St. Martin's. But I think, yeah, this was a look that I really loved. I thought it was really amazing. This is one of Anders' favourite.
I've seen this collection.
The donkeys.
Wow.
the donkey's amazing.
So
Just,
good.
it was like in the corner of the room when we were looking through all the collections, and it was like the elephant in the room, but the donkey in the room was just kind of like there. And I was like, what the hell is that?
They've made this little short film of the models riding the donkey. It's a serious video.
But I think this is what we're saying, you know, you're saying they're not trying to shout. This collection clearly is trying to shout, but there's such a place for it in London. Like, it's very... The prints are just completely mad as well.
Yeah.
It's like,
but I think that's fair enough. Look, this is, so far at least, this is the first one that's kind of like gone a bit bonkers. And, you know, if there's 1 or 2 out of 10...
It's refreshing.
Yeah.
yeah.
But when it's like every designer is
That's
like...
the problem.
Trying to
Yeah.
be crazy.
Yeah.
Because you had that collection, I can't remember the name, but you know it was predominantly grey, right? And you wouldn't want 10 of those. But then you have this sort of
That was Eugia
guys,
gin.
exactly, mixing it up a bit. And
Like Almodovar on acid. It's
Yeah.
kind of like
It's
so
quite
weird.
trippy when you sit there because it does kind of bits of it come to life, like the one with the plate of chicken on it, where it's quite stressful. Are you impressed with how professional and slick it looks, Soki? Looking at it, you kind of do you agree with Richard?
Yeah.
That
I was just worried because I was hoping to shoot this on Sunday and I didn't realise he was showing today. So I'm like, I'm obviously not going to get to. I mean, I've not actually seen the garments, but I think they look well made. What is it, like silks?
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of silks in it, and there's like I think this was denim, and there's like cotton in there as well. It's really nice.
Yeah, but I'm all for over the top.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, I love it.
I think there's a lot to be said as well. I mean, it's great seeing these. There's a lot to be said for actually touching the things
definitely,
and like
yeah.
feeling, you know, how they're made.
Yeah. And that's the strength of LCF, like that quilted one that we were looking at before. Like
it's even got a name already, brand name, Urban Logo.
I love that though. I love that confidence that they have. You know, they're thinking like their brand. This was, I thought, really, really good. And we ummed and ahed a little bit about this one as well, because obviously, you know, with denim, you've got Marcus Almeida doing that so well, but then we looked at this and we were actually like, you know what, it's that thing you were saying, David, it has such its own point of view, even though...
I think that's what you need to encourage, right? Anyone who comes in and knows exactly what they're trying to, you know, create, I mean, that's
what you need.
That needs to be supported.
Do you think that's where, you know, Richard, you mentioned for designers that kind of show for 4 seasons, then fall off schedule. Do you think that's where they fall flat? They try and change too much to keep up with the pressure of doing something new, and then they don't quite have a kind of individual point of view. What is it that kind of...
There's no easy answer to that. I think, you know, the press we're difficult to please, because if you do something too much, we would just say, oh, that's boring, move on. But if you keep on changing and you have 2 sort of different collections every season, then we go, oh, we're confused now, who are you, kind of thing. So, you know, I think we're quite difficult to please.
Yeah, definitely. What is there a skill to kind of making it then and staying on the schedule, or is it kind of a combination of luck and...
Just be good.
Just be good.
That's it.
But then you think of like body map, you think there have been really good people that go, so it's such a kind of cruel world in that sense, isn't it?
Yeah. Essentially, that comes down to if you're able to sell it, doesn't it? Because if you're not able to market and sell the collection, then you're not going to make money. If you don't make money, you're going to fall off the schedule. So that goes back to what we were saying early on. Like, it's one thing to do this, but what happens tomorrow?
Yeah. And I guess that's the danger that we were talking about before with, you know, maybe it would be really great if some of these young designers would go and work in-house somewhere for a few years and kind of cultivate that knowledge and then set up.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, if you look at somebody like Giles, he cut his business teeth in fashion at Debenhams. I think it was Debenhams, some big department store. And I remember speaking to him before setting up his own label, and he was like, yeah, I worked on the high street. And he was like, it was great because I learned about, you know, costings and markups and sales. And, you know, I think it's just going back to that whole business thing, you know, if you don't get your business right, it's not going to work.
It's not going to work, yeah.
Also, just working in, like, you know, in retail, like, for example, when you are a student, when I was studied, I was working in, you know, stores, and like that's retail. So you get to sort of meet customers, and B, you get to sort of understand how a retail environment works, and that's really what it comes down to, right? So, you know, you work in a shop, you sell clothes, you meet customers, and you understand what you need to do to enable to make it commercial.
I think a lot of these students from St Martin's, I don't know about LCF, but I know the ones I deal with St Martin's, come from, you know, a lot of them are Japanese students who have a bit of money behind them already, so I feel like that takes a lot of pressure off. But I don't know about LCF.
It's probably the same there. It's probably as expensive.
I mean, you can tell by the quality, what it looks like, the quality.
I really like this that we're seeing. It's very kind of, it's just nice to see tailoring, as you were saying before, David, to see that young people they're excited about doing something new with tailoring. That's really great. But that money thing's really hard. I was having a conversation with my friend who's a designer yesterday, and he was saying that he noticed that he used to show on schedule, he doesn't anymore. And he was saying how, you know, like a frustration he had is he'd look at the people who were lasting, and it was the ones whose families had money. And I think that's a really hard thing with being.
You know, the most horrible thing, I remember 2 years ago, there was a couple of designers that contacted me, and at the time I was far too busy. Like, their collections were amazing. I remember ID did, you know, after each fashion week they do like their designer profiles, and these girls were getting, you know, so much press, but they couldn't afford to, the time between their show and next season was far too short. They didn't have enough money, and they were begging. I remember trying to get lookbooks done, trying to cut costs and stuff, and now none of them do fashion design anymore, which I think is such a shame because of the money problem.
Yeah. This is amazing. I love
this. Yeah, this is really, really good. Really good. They're all really strong. I think that's the thing, is it's sort of like.
What number is this?
This is number 9. This is the Zhao. No, it's not. It's number 10. It's Min Kim. And it is really amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite strong, isn't it?
And we wanted it to close, but it just felt so different to the one that opened, you know, that kind of like eclectic grandma that we saw at the start compared to this. It's just so...
I like that, eclectic grandma.
It does feel like that, you know, it feels like a completely mad grandma. That's what I hope to be like when a grandma.
What's the process when they're, you know, when they graduate and they pick a certain number of designers to show at the graduate shows? Out of how many people is that roughly, do you know?
I think on the course altogether, I think we looked at about 30 students' work, maybe even more than that. And then
do you have like a criteria, like what are you looking for, like a bit?
It's a mixture, that's why they get different people. So when I was there, they had myself, they had a girl from The Hunger, a girl from Shortlist, and then Anders. And there's a selection panel even before that where they whittled it down for about 30 for us to look at. And I know that on that, like Andrew Davis from Wonderland was on that. So they really kind of go through lots of different people in the industry. And
so
you're looking for a mix of things.
The ones that don't make it, what do they?
LCF are really great with that. They have a big presentation, so you can go and, like an exhibition, so you can go and see the students' work who don't make it into the show.
I think it opened last night.
Yeah, which is really amazing if you think about it, because I don't think they want it to feel like if you don't make the show, you're a failure.
Yeah.
But it's quite different to Central St Martin's, where it's kind of like the MA is much smaller, and it's not most students make the show, but it's very much if you don't make the show, you kind of it's a bad thing. Whereas here, it kind of, Frances says very much when we're picking it, that it's a mixture of, obviously you want to pick the most skilled students, but it's also an element of trying to make it a good show. And she's very keen for that, because she knows that will get attention for the college and attention for the students, which is, I think, a really smart way of doing it.
But I think it was a really great show, and I think, you know, they should feel really proud of
definitely.
This.
Were there any highlights for you guys? Any of the collections that really showed?
I like the denim one.
I
thought that was really good.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name, but...
Just to try and find it. I think... Oh, I don't want to say in case I get the wrong one, but yeah, the denim one was
I really like the opening.
Yeah, Barbara was good.
Yeah.
Is LCF still sponsored by, is it Sagafars?
I don't know.
Because I know that like when I'm looking at the collections, they kind of got like a little sponsored, and
she's given a thanks to the Fair Futures bursary, because it did have a lot of fur in it, but I don't know if it is.
Because there's always fur throughout the graduates.
Yeah. But it was really nice to see her do fur in a kind of, it felt really modern with that. You know, it almost could have been fake fur, you know, it felt very, very current. So the opening one was a standout. Were you impressed by the men's what you saw, David?
Yeah, I did. I mean, it was great because it kind of covered very different bases. You know, you had the tailoring one, sort of the slightly more crazy one, as you were with the prints and so on. So, you know,
which we're looking forward to seeing you in.
Oh yeah.
You and your donkey around Fashion Week. But you impressed?
Yeah, so yeah, it was very good. And also I liked some of the womenswear. I mean, you know, that's not really what I kind of look for, but yeah, like for example that denim collection, to use that as a sort of way of describing it, I thought that was really strong.
Really strong.
Yeah.
And you were impressed as well, Richard. Do you want to see them all go on to do. I've got all the names, so we can work out who did the denim from this. Yeah, it's Yunkin Seo.
Yeah.
No, can you open the denim one? Sorry. Thanks, Liam. And I think this is another thing to mention, that they did this amazing shoot with Anders before, which is down, this one, up, there. No, down. Thanks. So yeah, so they I think it's nice that they treat their students in such a professional way, but then I kind of asked this a little bit before and I'm kind of playing devil's advocate, but is there a danger in that, you know, these are students, and do we put too much pressure on our students in London?
Yeah, I think so, 100%.
But do you mean as in like who puts pressure?
I just think everyone, like the fashion community, we expect students to show as on schedule alongside actual fashion designers. We expect them to be able to kind of.
But this is real life, and it's like, deal with it. It's like that's what you're going out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
do.
If they just offered, like the universities offered somewhere for each uni that kind of would teach them the same way now when people say about taxes, like no one taught you how to do that, like they should offer that in schools. I think that is the only thing I would say.
Definitely.
Look, even those links are to their show times, which are probably at the bottom of it won't have any contact details towards them either. So you've seen that, that's your link to the work. You want to shoot that, how do you contact them?
So we think there should be a kind of an element in all colleges. But I guess even if it's whether you're studying styling or design, you need to know how to, you know, set up your, like set yourself up as a person, as a company, how to do your taxes, how to start a business. And I know I went to Central St Martin's to do my MA, and I know there's not that there. Like, and I guess, yeah, that's a really good point. But then we've also got this thing, I guess it's another conversation, but this thing in London where I think we always have this strange prejudice about commerciality, and we see it as being at odds with creativity, and there's a sense of, you know, why would our amazing design students waste their time studying business when they should be doing the design? And I think that's kind of the mentality you see at St Martin's a little bit. It's all about the creativity. And do you think we're a bit simplistic in that we see creativity and commerciality at odds?
Yeah. I think you need to look at both. I mean, obviously you shouldn't let the commercial side to it kill the creative side, and you know, it shouldn't be like the course or any sort of education shouldn't be, fashion education shouldn't be taken over by that. But if you don't bear that in mind, I don't know, I think you need to find a balance there. For sure.
But do you not think we haven't quite found it yet? There's too much.
I mean, I don't know, because I haven't done one of these degrees, so I don't know. You know, I don't actually know how much of that they teach. But yeah, they do need to make sure that there is a way for people like yourself to kind of easily get hold of it. I think I would have thought that already existed.
Yeah.
It's sort of like rule number one, right? But if that's not the case, yeah, then it's not just down to the students, like also the schools need to kind of, because it's really tough out there. I mean, not just for students, but for schools as well. Like there's plenty of them to go to, and now that, you know, people see that it's not just all about St Martin's, we have plenty of great schools. There should be competition between them as well. Yeah,
and I think that's what's great about having LCF on schedule is they're really standing up and being like, it's not all about St Martin's. I love that they're on the same day, and it's kind of that healthy rivalry where you're like,
well, it just pushes up standards.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know I keep saying it, but we're so lucky to have so many good fashion courses in London. But I can't think of any other city that has as many respected courses.
I think that maybe, I mean, I don't know how many people go, how many students, you know, do this MA, but maybe they should cut it even more. Like I think it's 10 designers, 10 looks per, that's 100 exits, that's quite a lot. So yeah, maybe.
It's so hard when you're there though. I remember we kind of wavered, we had 8 for a while and we thought no, put 10 in, and it's that hard, because there's so much talent, and that's the thing, and it's like there's so many more students that easily could have made that show. One other thing that I want to talk about, which we kind of have hinted at throughout the discussion, but not so much, by discussing how many great colleges we have here, I think one thing to bear in mind is also that how many people from so many different countries and cultures that brings here, and I think that is a real unique thing that we have in London, that kind of melting pot thing, and I think you do see that reflected in our schedule. Like we talk about our London designers, but they're actually, most of them aren't London, and that's, do you guys find, you must find that very exciting as sort of journalists and editors and stylists to go and see. It feels like a world fashion capital. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's the same for me. I'm not from here. We know there's plenty of people who embark to London because it is just that. It's like it's a centre for diverse energy.
I couldn't really care less where they come from, as long as, you know, they're doing nice work. I don't even think you really think about it.
Yeah.
Like you don't go to somebody's show being, oh, that's a Spanish designer. Or
But I think that's the strength of London that you don't think about. That's
Right.
I think that is relatively unique. You know, it just feels so normal to have people from all over the world showing things that are
and without knowing what I'm talking about, like I don't think that that's often the case. I don't know how many students do you hear that, oh, I'm going to go to New York and study at Parsons or something like that. You know, I have a feeling a lot of that is domestic, but whereas London is the one where you actually travel abroad to study at.
And when you interview any designer, I love this, when we have a series on Show Studio called In Fashion, and we interview a lot of the working designers, and they all say the same thing. They're like talking about the little town in whatever part of the world it is, and they're like, and I was reading like magazines from London, I just knew I had to go to London to study, and it's so sweet. It's like Cinderella, you know, that thing of kind of London. It does make you quite proud. So obviously it's great that we've got London College of Fashion. It's a brilliant way to start London Fashion Week, and it's a cheeky question, but I want to ask it because it's the first panel we're doing of London. What are we looking forward to? What are we excited about? It's really hard. I'll put you on the spot, Richard. What are you excited about? Have you not got there yet?
I don't know.
All of it.
I mean, I have you know, personal favourites, so I really look forward to Christopher Kane, Giles, Roxander. Yeah, I mean.
Too many though. There's always.
There's just so many good ones.
Is that the same for you, Soki? Too many good ones?
I always look forward to like fashionista, like, you know, new designers, but I think I've said this a million times, me and him cut off. For me, I just so I'm looking forward to that.
Just everything. How about you, David? Are you excited? It's women, so you're getting a bit of a break.
Yeah, it's women, so I don't actually have, you know, particular design I'm looking forward to. I'm just looking forward to the general buzz of Fashion Week. You know, there's, even though more menswear focused, there's still like energy. People are in town, lots of stuff happening. It's nice. It's
nice for the city as well. I took a cab, like it was actually about a month ago, and I was talking to the taxi driver and I told him I worked in fashion, and he was like, I love London Fashion Week. He was like, it's great for the city. He was like, it's great for business, but he's like, you meet all these amazing people from all over the world, and I think we forget, when you work in fashion, you forget how much it has an effect on the city as well, which is really exciting. London! Well, thank you so much, and I think it's a bit corny, but we should give LCF a clap, because that was like a effort. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.